Chapter 1 of Woodcraft. Recording by Phil Schempf. Woodcraft by Nessmuk. Preface. Woodcraft is dedicated to the Grand Army of Outers as a pocket volume of reference on woodcraft. For brick and mortar breed filth and crime, with a pulse of evil that throbs and beats, and men are withered before their prime by the curse paved in with the lanes and streets. And lungs are poisoned and shoulders bowed in the smothering reek of mill and mine, and death stalks in on the struggling crowd, but he shuns the shadow of oak and pine. Nessmuk. Chapter 1. Overwork and Recreation, Outing and Outers, How to Do It and Why They Miss It. It does not need that Herbert Spencer should cross the ocean to tell us that we are an overworked nation, that our hair turns gray 10 years earlier than the Englishman's, or that we have somewhat too much of the gospel of work, and it is time to preach the gospel of relaxation. It is all true, but we work harder, accomplish more in a given time, and last quite as long as slower races. As to the gray hair, perhaps gray hair is better than none, and it is a fact that the average Briton becomes bald as early as the American turns gray. There is, however, a sad significance in his words when he says, "In every circle I have met men who had themselves suffered from nervous collapse, due to stress of business, or named friends who had either killed themselves by overwork, or had been permanently incapacitated, or had wasted long periods in endeavors to recover health." Too true. And it is the constant strain, without let up or relaxation, that in 9 cases out of 10 snaps the cord and ends in what the doctors call nervous prostration, something akin to paralysis, from which the sufferer seldom wholly recovers. Mr. Spencer quotes the quaint old chronicler Froissart as saying, "The English take their pleasures sadly after their fashion," and thinks if he lived now he would say of Americans, "They take their pleasures hurriedly after their fashion." Perhaps. It is an age of hurry and worry. Anything slower than steam is apt to get left. Fortunes are quickly made and freely spent. Nearly all busy, hard working Americans have an intuitive sense of the need that exists for at least one period of rest and relaxation during each year, and all, or nearly all, are willing to pay liberally, too liberally in fact, for anything that conduces to rest, recreation, and sport. I am sorry to say that we mostly get swindled. As an average, the summer outer who goes to the forest, lake, or stream for health and sport gets about 10 cents worth for a dollar of outlay. A majority will admit, to themselves at least, that after a month's vacation they return to work with an inward consciousness of being somewhat disappointed and beaten. We are free with our money when we have it. We are known throughout the civilized world for our lavishness in paying for our pleasures, but it humiliates us to know that we have been beaten. And this is what most of us know at the end of a summer vacation. To the man of millions it makes little difference. He is able to pay liberally for boats, buckboards, and body service if he chooses to spend a summer in the North Woods. He has no need to study the questions of lightness and economy in a forest and stream outing. Let his guides take care of him, and unto them and the landlords he will give freely of his substance. I do not write for him, and can do him little good. But there are hundreds of thousands of practical, useful men, many of them far from being rich, mechanics, artists, writers, merchants, clerks, business men, workers, so to speak, who sorely need and well deserve a season of rest and relaxation at least once a year. To these and for these I write. Perhaps more than 50 years of devotion to woodcraft may enable me to give a few useful hints and suggestions to those whose dreams, during the close season of work, are of camp life by flood, field, and forest. I have found that nearly all who have a real love of nature and out of door camp life spend a good deal of time and talk in planning future trips, or discussing the trips and pleasures gone by, but still dear to memory. When the mountain streams are frozen and the Norland winds are out, when the winter winds are drifting the bitter sleet and snow, when winter rains are making out of door life unendurable, when season, weather, and law combine to make it close time for beast, bird, and man, it is well that a few congenial spirits should, at some favored trysting place, gather around the glowing stove and exchange yarns, opinions, and experiences. Perhaps no two will exactly agree on the best ground for an outing, or half a dozen other points that may be discussed. But one thing all admit, each and every one has gone to his chosen ground with too much impedimenta, too much duffle, and nearly all have used boats at least twice as heavy as they need to have been. The temptation to buy this or that bit of indispensable camp kit has been too strong, and we have gone to the blessed woods, handicapped with a load fit for a pack mule. This is not how to do it. Go light, the lighter the better, so that you have the simplest material for health, comfort, and enjoyment. Of course, if you intend to have a permanent camp, and can reach it by boat or wagon, lightness is not so important, though even in that case it is well to guard against taking a lot of stuff that is likely to prove of more weight than worth, only to leave it behind when you come out. As to clothing for the woods, a good deal of nonsense has been written about strong, coarse woolen clothes. You do not want coarse woolen clothes. Fine woolen cashmere of medium thickness for coat, vest, and pantaloons, with no cotton lining. Color, slate gray or dead leaf, either is good. 2 soft, thick woolen shirts, 2 pairs of fine but substantial woolen drawers, 2 pairs of strong woolen socks or stockings. These are what you need, and all you need in the way of clothing for the woods, excepting hat and boots or gaiters. Boots are best, providing you do not let yourself be inveigled into wearing a pair of long-legged heavy boots with thick soles, as has been often advised by writers who knew no better. Heavy long-legged boots are a weary, tiresome encumbrance on a hard tramp through rough woods. Even moccasins are better. Gaiters, all sorts of high shoes, in fact, are too bothersome about fastening and unfastening. Light boots are best. Not thin, unserviceable affairs, but light as to actual weight. The following hints will give an idea for the best foot gear for the woods. Let them be single soled, single backs and single fronts, except light, short foot linings. Back of solid country kip. Fronts of substantial French calf. Heel 1 inch high, with steel nails. Countered outside, straps narrow, of fine French calf, put on a straddle, and set down to the top of the back. The outsole stout Spanish oak, and pegged rather than sewed, although either is good. They will weigh considerably less than half as much as the clumsy, costly boots usually recommended for the woods, and the added comfort must be tested to be understood. The hat should be fine soft felt, with moderately low crown and wide brim, color to match the clothing. The proper covering for head and feet is no slight affair, and will be found worth some attention. Be careful that the boots are not too tight, or the hat too loose. The above rig will give the tourist 1 shirt, 1 pair of drawers, and a pair of socks to carry as extra clothing. A soft, warm blanket bag, open at the ends, and just long enough to cover the sleeper, with an oblong square of waterproof cotton cloth 6 by 8 feet, will give warmth and shelter by night, and will weigh together 5 or 6 pounds. This, with the extra clothing, will make about 8 pounds of dry goods to pack over carries, which is enough. Probably also it will be found little enough for comfort. During a canoe cruise across the northern wilderness in the late summer, I met many parties at different points in the woods, and the amount of unnecessary duffle with which they encumbered themselves was simply appalling. Why a shrewd business man, who goes through with a guide and makes a forest hotel his camping ground nearly every night, should handicap himself with a 5-peck pack basket full of gray woolen and gum blankets, extra clothing, pots, pans, and kettles, with a 9-pound 10-bore and 2 rods, yes, and an extra pair of heavy boots hanging astride of the gunwale, it is one of the things I shall never understand. My own load, including canoe, extra clothing, blanket bag, 2 days' rations, pocket axe, rod, and knapsack, never exceeded 26 pounds, and I went prepared to camp out any and every night. People who contemplate an outing in the woods are pretty apt to commence preparations a long way ahead, and to pick up many trifling articles that suggest themselves as useful and handy in camp. All well enough in their way, but making at least a too heavy load. It is better to commence by studying to ascertain just how light one can go through without especial discomfort. A good plan is to think over the trip during leisure hours, and make out a list of indispensable articles, securing them beforehand and have them stowed in handy fashion, so that nothing needful may be missed, just when and where it cannot be procured. The list will be longer than one would think, and need not be cumbersome or heavy. As I am usually credited with making a cruise or long woods tramp with exceptionally light duffle, I will give a list of articles I take along, going on foot, over carries, or through the woods. CHAPTER II.